if you change how you feel about your kids, that's going to change everything. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hey everybody, I'm going to take a few minutes and talk about the steps or the elements that are going to create the kind of relationship we want with our kids so that they can truly trust us and rest. One of the things that has been really helpful for me is to see examples of this. And a movie that you might go back and review, or if you watched it, you can just think about this example in this movie, which I find really helpful to have concrete examples, is Dead Poet Society. I think Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society does such an amazing job of capturing what it looks like to be a strong leader that's firm, yet very compassionate. And as we are exploring stepping into parenthood more intentionally with this idea of strengthening connection and relationships and navigating that no matter what the behavior is like, the off-track behavior, the amazing behavior, all the things in between, we want to really understand what this looks like, right? We're going to unpack it a little bit, but I think having an example of a movie, and there's others, but that's the one, I'm just going to point out one where it just really does a great job of showing us in real life. Now, sure, it's a teacher-student relationship, so it is in a slightly different context, but yet you get to see what it's like for someone to step into a kind, compassionate role. So as we're moving forward in this direction, I want to just ask a few questions that are going to help us know if we're leading our children in a way that is going to strengthen the relationship. So does our child feel like we care about them? Do they feel special, like they matter? Do they feel connected? We can have lots of different parenting styles. We're going to all have our own flavor based on our background and our personalities and our preferences. But if we can remember that the relationship between us and our child is the foundation for growth and learning, this is going to bring us back to home base. It's the attachment that makes all the difference. So how do we embody this type of caring leader that our kids really want and really need so they can rest? And when I say rest, it's like a resting from needing to figure out how to take care of their needs. And this allows our nervous system to relax. They're not in fight or flight mode. They don't feel like they have to figure out how to problem solve. There are different things in their life that might be a little bit too much for them. They can know that, hey, mom's going to take care of getting me food. Mom's going to take care of running bedtime. Mom's going to take care of helping me navigate different things in my life. And it changes as they evolve. But how can we really embody this kind of caring leader so that our kids can rest? Because when they're resting, their nervous system is at calm, and that's when growth happens. And that's what we want so that they can fulfill their potential. So it's important, you could even say critical, that we lead in this compassionate yet firm way. And if the word leadership or authority, or if I say alpha, if it triggers something inside of you, I'll just invite you to put that aside temporarily, because I'm going to be talking about leading our children in a different context than probably what we would, if that brings something up, what you would associate those words with. And it's very different. And if we can be open and receptive to maybe redefining that word if it has a negative connotation, that's going to be really empowering. So understanding our beliefs about our child, our beliefs about their behavior, our beliefs about our competence as a parent is going to be really important. And that's where we're going to tap into the STEER model and into thought downloads and into meditation and into things that allow us to be more aware of what is happening inside of our unconscious mind a lot of times. Sometimes it's conscious, but we want to just bring all of it really to the forefront of awareness so that we can understand the root of what's happening inside of us, because we can pretend to be nice. I've even talked to, and I did this myself too, where I'd be like, I was really angry inside, but I didn't let it show. I kept my smile on. I didn't raise my voice. And I just want to offer, our kids can see through what I call the stretchy smile. We can't really fake having this energy of compassion if we're fuming inside or really irritated. And I also want to offer that if you're feeling irritated, and if you're feeling frustrated right now when your kids are misbehaving or leaving messes or talking back, totally normal, completely normal. And we're going to make friends with that and calm our nervous system down and navigate that so that we can truly transform the way we interact with ourselves and the conversations going in our head and really rewriting some of those scripts so that we have a more powerful and positive way of thinking about things. It's going to change everything, because the tone that we take and our body language and all of that stuff is sending out a beacon to our kids of how we're truly feeling inside. And so we don't want to just put a layer of frosting on the outside and say, I tried to paste it on and make it good. Although I am going to talk about how we do practice that and we baby step our way there. And that's different than just trying to pretend, like being angry and yet trying to pretend we're not. We're going to unpack that more, so let's put that on pause. But just remember that there is a huge element of this that is our work as parents to do. And as a result of us doing this work on ourselves and us incorporating and accepting some of this framework of parenting that's in a connected attachment relationship focused framework, is going to allow our brain to switch some of these beliefs we have easier, because there's proof and there's evidence. But we're going to do this gently, and we're going to do this gradually, and it's going to blow your mind and transform you and be the best thing that's ever happened to you, I promise. But right now we want to talk about just how do we lead and how do we connect, and how do we ask the kids to do something when we know that they're going to most likely push back, right? When we hear our kids moaning and groaning in response to a request that we made, we might think, is it okay for me to ask them to do things that they don't want to do? Am I being disrespectful? Am I hurting their self-esteem? And these are all common things that come up with us. And even ones that I personally I've had those beliefs, I've had those thoughts, I've had those questions, and I hear moms ask them all the time. And it's normal, right? And so when we have a challenging situation with our kids and we're hesitant to take the lead and to set the limit or to bring the limit or to give the direction, because we know the children will possibly push back, then we just want to recognize that. Children, if they sense a void in leadership, they're going to most likely step into that and figure out, someone's got to figure this out. I got to figure it out, because this adult, this parent, this whatever, this person in my life that I thought was going to figure out isn't doing it. So kids really need an adult leading and guiding them. They weren't meant to take care of themselves at this age. And so when we hesitate to lead, we accidentally, we're not doing this on purpose, we put the kids in the lead. And without this strong adult leadership, this compassionate and caring leadership, it oftentimes puts our children in a place where they feel emotionally unsafe. So they feel like they have to take over because there's no clear guidance. And as our kids are developing in our home and as they're growing in our home, this is often beyond what they're capable of or what they are really, their body is ready to do. So it's really actually a disservice to our kids. It's not really helping them. It's not really fun when we're not being the compassionate, kind leader. And that's reassuring to me, because sometimes I would question and think, I don't know if this is actually helpful, but to know, oh, this is what they actually really need, and not in a controlling, domineering way, just in a compassionate, like grounded, trustful energy. Okay, I also want to just give one little caveat that we want to be careful to not swing to the extremes, even if it feels like the only option is to become a drill sergeant to get everyone to listen to us, or if we're so exhausted we just want to give up and just let them get their way. Let's just be mindful of those two extremes, because a lot of us have only considered those are the two options. And there's this really great fable, an Aesop fable, where the north wind and the sun are having this conversation, and they're talking about who's more powerful and who can make change more and who's the better person, or whatever you would call them. And there's this young man that's going, like riding his horse, and he has this really fancy coat on. And the sun and the north wind are having this conversation, and they're saying, like, I could easily get him to take the coat off. And the sun's, I could easily get him to take a coat off too. Then he says to the north wind, like, go ahead and try. And so the north wind blows, and he all like blows and blows. And yeah, you're right. Like, what happens is the man tightens his coat tighter, because that pressure, that control to try to change he just tightened it up. It got tighter, not looser. Then the sun says, let me give it a try. The sun just gently and patiently starts to warm things up. And birds come out and the insects are buzzing around. It takes a little bit of time, and the animals start to wander around a little bit more, and the people are coming out of their homes because it's so warm and beautiful. And it gets a little bit warm. And then the man riding the horse just takes his cloak off without even being really compelled, like just the situation. It wasn't like it was blown off of him by force. He chose to take it off. So the north wind tries to use force to remove the cloak, and the sun knows that warmth is more powerful than any pushing, any pleading, any force, any control. And I think if we take this analogy and apply it to what I'm talking about with leadership, it's the sun knows that the right conditions shifts people. Give them enough warmth and safety. We open up, we relax, we come outside, we start moving around, we feel satisfied, we feel content, we feel happy. So we want to think about this comparison between warmth and pressure and how those things differ, how warmth is really exuded by us. How do we be that sun and warm things up? What are our thoughts? What are our beliefs? How are we feeling? How are we trusting? The sun was just like trusting that it took time. Because eventually it's going to happen. Just trust. Where the north wind was, I'm going to force it. I'm going to make it happen on my timeline. Hurry. And I want to just have you keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about what you want to create for yourself and for your kids. So this is really important. I also want to say that children don't need just warmth occasionally or here or there. They really need it to be part of the environment, part of their life. That it's just like the sun's rays coming down. It wasn't just pinpointed on the young man riding the horse. It was a constant, consistent flow. And this is really important. In fact, as we contrast the wind that seems periodic and it's just a big burst every once in a while versus the sun on a sunny day, it's very different energy, very different flow of how to show up. Now, your mind might be saying, I've seen examples of people who have used more of an authoritative stance, and it feels like it works. So I want to talk about the problem here in this situation when we're using an authoritative stance is that even though it might appear on the outside that everything is smoother and that the kids are just so compliant and obedient, it's coming from a different place. It's not out of curiosity or out of a love and connection. It's out of oftentimes fear or worry of what will happen if they don't. And we don't mean to do this. This is the stance, this is the belief, this is the framework of society. So we're not meaning to do this. No one's, I don't believe, meaning to use fear or pressure. We just do it because we're trying to help. We're trying to teach. We're trying to help create amazing individuals and be responsible parents. And we resort to what we've seen and what we know. But when we're using that kind of pressure and the fear, the consequences and the punishment, curiosity dies and true learning doesn't flourish. In fact, a lot of kids will try to be good. You'll have those people pleasers. They'll try to be good and make sure they don't get into trouble because they're afraid or they're anxious about what would happen. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't like to get in trouble. It might look like more cooperation, more listening, but at what cost? Then you have the other end of the spectrum of examples where parents trying their best or teachers trying their best, using more authoritative like rule. And then you have the kids who feel the pressure, feel like they're being coerced, and they resist loudly. And sometimes they push back, even if they wanted to do the thing now that you've asked. No way, I'm not going to do that. And they might be angry or disrespectful, and they won't feel like the adult in their life is on their side. In fact, they might feel like they're out to get them in trouble. They don't care. This is just information I want you to just put away. And I don't want you to use any of this as ammunition against yourself if you've slid on one side or the other of this spectrum of being passive or maybe being a little bit controlling and authoritative, because we've all done it. It's what society has taught us. It's not a problem. It's just something to look at with curiosity. It's just perfect. Everything has been perfect up to this point. You've done nothing wrong. We're just now enhancing, understanding, and bringing more awareness to what you have and where you are. And that's going to be a beautiful thing. If we don't step into this leadership role, it's going to be really difficult to be able to teach our kids, to help them know what we're trying to pass on. If we're not the compass point, if we're not the North Star, if we're not who they go back to, their home base, then we're going to have a hard time supporting them and teaching them and directing them and passing on our values and what's important to us. So being this center point is going to be an exercise, a practice of developing this compassionate yet firm kind of leadership style with our kids, where they feel safe in our care and they can open themselves up to our guidance. Even if they don't enthusiastically open up to us, they're going to be so much more likely to at least listen and be open to us. And this is going to be a game changer as they're growing up, as they're going through the process of learning and growing and becoming themselves and figuring out who they are. So fundamentally, it really is about prioritizing the establishment of a strong, healthy relationship with our kids. This then enables us to lead and care for them in a way that's not possible when we don't have that door open, when they haven't chosen us, when we don't have that healthy dialogue, where they feel like we're not on their side. We want them to feel like we're on their side, yet we are the leader. We are the one that's helping to take care of them. When our leadership is both strong and warm, it's almost like a gravitational pull for the child. It's like a magnet. And this type of relationship is really the framework, the thing that will allow us to maximize our impact, our influence, our relationship, the learning we want to pass on to with our child, because they're going to want to follow our lead. They're going to be curious. They're going to be open to what we have to say. So this is something we want to keep in the back of our mind. I want you to think about the last time you flew on an airplane, or you watched it on TV, someone flying an airplane. And as you get onto that airplane, I don't have any idea how to fly an airplane. And so I really get onto that airplane fully trusting that pilot and co-pilot know what they're doing and that they're going to take care of everything for me. And my job is just to sit in my seat and enjoy the ride and to just trust that they're going to get me from point A to point B. And I've been on many flights where there's really bad turbulence, and the pilot typically is like, okay, guys, there's bad turbulence, or they'll give us a warning. Okay, there's going to be some bad weather coming ahead. We're going to be really bumpy. Everyone needs to return to their seats right now. If the flight attendants can get back to where they need to be, everyone buckle up. And just like this, really, it's like firm and caring, yet direct and confident. That is the kind of way we want to show up for our kids. Compassionate, firm, and conveying that, like, when the going gets tough, we've got this. We're going to figure this out. I'm going to help you through this. I'm going to be your guide. But think about if the pilot got on the speaker and was like, hey guys, I don't know what's happening. I don't even know what to do. There's some bumps. It's going to get really bad. I'm not sure. Maybe you guys should possibly consider sitting down and buckling up. And flight attendants, what do you think? Should you sit down? Do you think that's a good idea? And he was just fumbling and not confident and not taking charge. There would probably be someone who would, whether it was a flight attendant or if the flight attendants were bumbling around too, even a passenger that would step in because they'd feel that void of leadership and say, like, guys, I've been on planes before. Sit down and buckle up. It sounds like this is going to get bumpy. I don't want to have anybody get hurt, because we all can feel the void or the presence of leadership. And maybe they just step into that. Some of our kids are going to step into that if they feel the uncertainty. And I'm not saying or insinuating that you need to have everything figured out all of the time. You can't, right? But you can be in a place of feeling like, I can figure this out. Even if your child's older and you're problem solving with him, the energy is still like, I know we're going to get this. This is not a problem. It's not like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I'm so exasperated by all the requests you're making. Fine, you can figure it out. Do you see the difference? We want to convey to our kids that we're in charge and they can trust us. So we want to be the leader, not the follower. Even if they're moaning and groaning when we ask them to clean up their schoolwork off the table or their chores, or that they have to come in by midnight for curfew, we want to be able to maybe anticipate this, even is a good way to put it, like expect it and realize it's normal and that we still are staying firm. Or if we decided to change our mind, we're changing our mind because we feel like it's going to serve them. We're not doing it because they walked all over us, or they pushed us so hard, or they triggered us so much, or we couldn't take it anymore. It's really critical to not give our power away, or not put the blame on someone else, or, oh my gosh, fine. I don't even know what to do. It's your fault. I can't even handle this anymore. Fine, do it. Or blame someone else outside. Our kids might not like every decision we make or every instruction we give, but that doesn't mean they don't or won't like us. In fact, what I want to challenge you on in your beliefs, I want to offer to your beliefs, is that over time, even though they might not like everything we do, they will learn to respect and look up to us because they're going to sense that we make decisions out of a place of caring for them. It's really important that we are assertive and that our kids sense that we're totally capable of figuring things out so that they can relax. We've talked about this a little bit before, but it just goes back to if we don't feel confident yet, this isn't a problem. This is where we're going to start doing our thought downloads and our steer models, and I cover the beliefs we currently have and start baby stepping our way to where we want to go. If it feels like I have no idea what to do when the kids start fighting, and we want to get to a place of believing we can figure this out and we can handle this without getting triggered, like totally know what to do. This is not a problem. I can handle anything that comes up when the kids fight. We're not going to be able to go all the way to that beautiful belief and embody it and actually act from it. So we start with some baby steps. We start with some modified thoughts. Like I'm learning how to believe that I can handle whatever comes up with my kids, the fighting that happens, or I'm learning to believe it's possible that I'm not going to get triggered when the kids start fighting or whatever. We start those thought belief modifications and we slowly baby step our way over. And in the meantime, one of the things I love to suggest that I've done myself is we do visualize or almost act it out. Okay, if I did believe that new belief I'm working on, this is like when we create belief plans, we start really implementing them in real life. I'm going from, I have no idea what to do when the kids start fighting. I'm overwhelmed. I'm triggered by our current place, which is why we want to do those thought downloads to see where we are, to have the awareness. We can't fix what or change or release what we can't see. And so this is where I am. I have no idea what to do when the kids start fighting too. I'm learning to believe, and we can even like make it really as simple as we need I'm learning to believe it's possible that someday I'm going to know what to do when the kids fight. See, that's really pretty simple for our brain to say. I could see, believing that it's possible someday. And that is a definite little shift in the right direction, and nudge in our programming, in our thought patterns, in our beliefs in the right direction. Then we can visualize it. Okay, what would I be feeling if I really was believing that? And we can visualize it and go through it in our head before we get to the real situation. And then we can even pretend we're acting on a movie set and we're really becoming this version of ourselves, this character of ourselves where we really believe that. What would that be like? What would we do and what would we say? And this is where we can use the different tools, but one of them we can use is a steer model and say, okay, if I thought that and I was believing that, what were the actions I would be taking? What would my result be? This is when we start to create amazing shifts in our life as we practice and practice. And when we start doing this, our demeanor is going to change. Our body language is going to change. Our tone of voice is going to change because we're going to be embodying this possible belief, this new way of thinking, even if it's just a little tiny 1% shift. And it's going to change the way we interact with our kids and the energy and the emotions. We're going to go from feeling overwhelmed or frustrated to maybe curious, or maybe it's just possible. We think it's possible. There's a little bit of a shift in our emotions. I also want to just say, as we're stepping into this leadership role, as we're increasing the relationship or building the relationship or enhancing the relationship, we do want to be clear and direct. And we don't want to do the lectures or the ultimatums, but if we can state things very clearly, as if it's never occurred to us that our kids might not listen or might not follow our instructions. We don't bring that baggage with us. We just believe in their best. We're like, this is what I need you to do. I need you to go put your clothes away. I need you to go make your bed. I need you to do your homework. And we just assume they're totally going to go for this. And we have this beautiful belief in them. And we communicate it in this way where we have the clear expectations. And then we also anticipate if they push back, it's not a problem. That's just where they are. It's just information. They're just trying to, maybe they're frustrated about something. Maybe they're trying to find their voice. And this allows us to be direct, be clear, be compassionate, be firm, and also be understanding and meet them where they're at and support them to do their very best and think about it in a way that our thinking brain is still on, so we can evaluate it and think, what will serve them best? How can I help them? What limit do I maybe need to bring, but how do I not bring it in a way that's controlling or forcing like the north wind, right? How do I just warm them up like the sun? So following our gut, following our intuition, being flexible, modifying if needed, that's not a bad thing at all. are all going to help us really be in a place where we're truly there to serve our kids. And I just want to offer that. Let's say the kids were like, Mom, you finished up dinner, you have all the dishes. And typically the rule is to do the dishes right after dinner. Let's say that's your rule. And the kids, Mom, we don't want to do the dishes. We'd really like to go on a bike ride. And in your brain, you might think, okay, I can't deviate, because if I deviate, then they're going to give an inch, they're going to take a mile, and they're not going to wash the dishes. That's us going down this fear and worry mode instead, and not really leading powerfully, right? Instead, we just have to make a decision. Do I want to ride the bikes before I do the dishes, or do I not? And whatever you decide, it powerfully and come with confidence and calmness and just really an energy of belief that we're all doing our best. So maybe let's say you decide to ride the bikes. Make that decision, and you could say something like, hey kid, I love that suggestion. That's exactly what I was thinking we should do. Let's do that, and then we'll do the dishes after we get back. Or let's say you decide this is not a good night to ride the bikes. You can say, I love that idea. I was thinking we would do that tomorrow. Let's make time for that tomorrow. That would be so fun. That's what I was thinking. How did you know I was thinking about bike riding tomorrow? Or you could say, how did you know that's what I was thinking tonight? We were going to ride bikes, and then we were going to do the dishes. So we can really have fun going either direction, sticking with the plan, modifying it in a way that allows our kids to continue to rest and be like, oh, Mom's got a plan. She knows what she's doing. And this is helpful. Also, I just want to throw in there that routines can be really helpful too. They can create structure. They can create predictability. That's super helpful for certain personalities. So just see if that is something that might serve you and play around with it and see if that might be helpful for your family to use structure, use routines so that the kids can just rest in that, and that we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel every night. There's anciently, maybe not really so anciently, but cultural rhythms that were built into the flow of each little village. And there were a lot of things that were just decided by culture and tradition that we don't have now. So if it feels like it would serve you, you can start creating intentionally some of those rhythms, those traditions, and they can be really helpful. Also, don't think it's too late to start. I have moms all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, my child's 17. I don't know if this is going to work. I've not been showing up this way. Just be patient and compassionate with yourself. Yeah, it might take a little bit longer if your children are older, but it's not impossible. And if you change how you feel about your kids, that's going to change everything. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you keep plugging away, it totally will. And just do little 1% shifts. You're not going to change everything all at once. Your brain's going to want it to change fast, but it's not going to work that way, and that's okay. One suggestion I do have if you have teenagers is to take a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, and just really think about what was on your mind as a teenager, what were your worries, and write them down. That will help start to facilitate some more compassion towards your teenagers, because sometimes we look at some of the things that they're struggling with or that they're stressed out about, and we're thinking, that is nothing. Like, why are we worried about that? But for them, it's the world. It's everything. And maybe some of the thoughts we had, just for example, to get your juices flowing is, I'm so excited about this date I get to go on to the school dance, or I hate everything. That teacher is so mean and unfair, or my parents don't get me at all. They're suffocating me, or this weekend was terrible. I didn't get invited to everything, or I wonder if this outfit is cool, or if I'm going to get criticized. And now there's all the social media stuff that's new compared to when I was a teenager. But getting into the space of remembering what it was like for you can be very helpful. I just want to also say about teenagers that they are branching into adulthood. And so there is this separation in their identity and their opinions and their values and their goals. And I would offer to make room for those, to listen to those, and to still be caring and compassionate. You can still express what you believe, but creating a structure where we're very warm and open. And that can be done formally. You could have family meetings or little dates with your teenager just to hear where they're at with things and how things are going. You could have a wall where people write down ideas, or maybe a whiteboard or something in the kitchen where the kids write down things that they are important to them or that they'd like to see switched in the family so that they feel like they're being heard. We just want them to know, like, hey, your opinion, I want to hear it. I want to know what it is, and it's important, and I'm validating it. Remember that our kids need us to take care of them because they're really still children and they're not totally capable of taking care of all of their needs. And we want them to feel that we care for them, that we deeply value them. And when we do, that's going to create a relationship that's going to allow them to want to listen to us and to really thrive. This is powerful. This is going to make a huge difference, creating that emotional safety helping them know everything's fine in our relationship. It's strong, even when they've had a bad day. And it really leads to them discovering their best self. Connection is obviously a really big part of building a safe, warm, strong relationship. So we want to be connecting often. We want to be living in this place of connecting and not just trying to connect or be present with them right before we want to give them a direction or ask them to do something. If we are using it as the essence of what we're doing, it's going to be really powerful. And I want to say, when we take a little bit of time and we see them and we look at them in the eyes before we give them a direction and we see what their body language is, it's going to be impactful in how they respond. Oftentimes we're saying and giving instructions and asking them to do stuff from across the room. And I would just challenge you to start getting in the habit of getting close to them, especially if you haven't done this before. If they're little kids or big kids, it's a beautiful practice regardless. Being close enough where they can see you and hear you and you can see and read their body language. Also putting in little drips of rituals, maybe how you go to bed, the last thing you say at night. See you in the morning. I can't wait till we get to talk in the morning, or I'm going to come in and scratch your back in the morning. Goodbye rituals and hello rituals are going to be really connective and can create a little bit more security and safety. Okay, if you're new to this, I would suggest just picking one or two things to try out as a goodbye or hello ritual. So it could be something you do in the morning when you first wake them up that you want to try to just strengthen that little connection in the morning, or something that in the evening or after you've been separated for a little bit. Maybe they've gone to school and coming back. Think of one thing. Remember, just 1% shifts is all we need to do, and try to implement that. That can be really fun, and you're going to see a good response. You're going to feel good if you do this. It's going to feel like, wow, I'm really intentionally creating connection just in the mundane moments. Seeing and hearing them in this way is important when we're dealing with kids that aren't listening, when they're in their own world, when we feel like they're ignoring us. It's tempting to get louder and harsher, maybe slip back into punishments and rewards because it feels like what's familiar and it feels like it works in the moment. But I want to just say it's far more effective to work on connecting with our kids at their level, wherever they are, if they're having trouble. It really, in the long term, it's like the fertilizer is going into the soil and we're really creating conducive conditions for them that the fruit is going to bear, but it might be a little bit down the ways, and that's okay. I like to think about seeing and hearing them before setting any kind of limit or giving any kind of direction. And so almost like that's the prerequisite. If I don't have enough time to look at them in the eyes and to see what their body language is, then I don't give myself permission to go to the next level and to give them direction. I need to take the time to do that. It's like setting the runway for what happens next. So this just looks like getting down on their level, making eye contact, smiling with them, maybe talking with them for just a minute about whatever currently has their attention, the Legos, the toys, the bike ride, the whatever, the show they may be watching. Maybe giving them a little touch on the shoulder or touching their head, getting their attention if they seem like they're lost in la land, trying to make eye contact, giving them maybe a thumbs up or nodding or asking them to do something and seeing if they'll respond with their head. Maybe even emphasizing the fact that they might not feel like doing this thing we're asking them to do. We understand. I know you've been having so much fun playing with the Legos, or I know you've had so much fun outside with your friends, or I know you're really enjoying this show that we watched, but it's time for dinner, whatever it is. Just really honoring that. I get it. It's hard to stop one thing and do another thing. And then once we feel that connection with them, we can say it again, gently but firmly. It's time to do this anyway. I know you've had fun, but it's time to turn it off and do it anyway. And I'm sure you're doing parts of this. It's just when we start to put this whole little equation together, it's going to really start to make a difference. You're going to feel more capable because you're going to feel like you have a plan. And they're going to feel that capacity, that confidence coming from you too. I want to say one little thing about adolescence. A lot of times this is where we start to feel like our kids have less interest in us, and we interpret that as a sign that maybe they don't need us, or maybe we're doing it wrong. And I just want to say this is actually a time where they need us the most. They just don't know how to ask for it. And historically, this was where other members of the family or the village would step in and help, because they are looking for other people outside, maybe their direct immediate family, their nuclear family, to help them learn and grow. And I've had this experience with my kids where we've had maybe one of my children is making a choice and we've had like beautiful conversations, but they're still, thanks mom, that was good information, but I'm still doing this other thing. And then somebody else who might be a stranger, one time it was a stranger that my oldest son talked to, and this man basically said all the things that I was sharing, and all of a sudden he's like, I think I might change my mind. I might do this thing instead of that. And so just realizing that's just part of their normal development, and they're trying to discover themselves, and they want to look maybe beyond their parents sometimes for that, and that's okay. We want to give them opportunities for them to do that, and to help them maybe even do a little bit of matchmaking and find mentors to help them to answer questions that might say the same thing we're doing, but say the same thing we're saying rather, but in a different way, or just a different person. I just want to offer that sometimes when we might interpret that our kids are pushing away, don't be fooled by that. They might not know how to ask, but they probably need us more than ever. All right, as I come to a close talking about leading and building the relationships, I just want to quote something that I love that Dr. Gordon Neufeld said. He's a developmental psychologist who's really devoted his whole life, or big chunk of his life, to understanding human development and specifically with kids. And he says, it's not so much what we do, but rather who we are to our kids that matters most. And I love that. I love it because we live in a society where we talk a lot about what we do. What do I do when they do this? What do I do when they won't go to bed? What do I do when they won't eat their dinner? And although we do need to come to an idea, a plan of action of what to do, we're sometimes putting the cart before the horse. It starts with who we are. What are my beliefs about my kids? What's going on for me in my head? What am I worried about? Maybe I don't understand how to be this compassionate but yet firm leader, and I'm practicing that. And oftentimes as we step into who we want to be for our kids, what we do just works itself out because we are in a space where we believe and are embodying and becoming something different and someone different. And we naturally, as we step into that, we do things differently. And so I hope you'll just take a little bit of time and think about this and how it applies to your specific situation with your kids and how you can step into that leadership role and just truly strengthen your relationship with your kids in very intentional ways. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, come check out League, my Connect Method parenting coaching program, where we take this material and we apply it using my proven formula. Head over to cmp.works/join.